This week, the nation, along with the state of Louisiana, will mark 20 years since Hurricane Katrina devastated America's Gulf Coast. The worst of it tore through the heart of New Orleans. More than 1,800 people died in these storms. In New Orleans, hundreds of thousands of residents were displaced permanently. Now, 20 years later, leaders continue their work to heal the city while also celebrating success stories to bring residents and businesses back home. With us is one of those leaders, longtime resident and advocate for the eastern part of New Orleans, Tangee Wall. Tangee, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Hannah. Thank you for having me.
Of course. We've been looking at these images. First, I can't believe it's been 20 years. Talk to me about New Orleans. You now know beyond the French Quarter and, of course, the struggle that remains for longtime residents after Katrina hit.
Yes, the eastern part of the city, areas east of the Industrial Canal, like New Orleans East and the Lower Nine, still continue to struggle 20 years later. There are so many success stories, but still we see the ravages and the devastation of a 100-year storm that Katrina has been named as one of the most devastating to ever hit the United States. And I think that the reflections and the memories of all of what happened 20 years ago remains with all of us that suffered unthinkable loss. In spite of all of that, our family evacuated to the Baton Rouge area, which didn't sustain any of the floodwaters, and found comfort in finding our neighbors and friends and relatives that had also evacuated at that time. And the struggle began in Baton Rouge because with all of the media that was covered at that time, there was something very stark about the fact that New Orleans East, the largest district in the city of New Orleans, was not mentioned. There was no mention of what was happening in the city to our homes. What we saw were, aerial photos of rooftops. It gave the image that the entire area that we lived in was immersed in water.
Right.
And of course, that was true to some extent, but we were able to return, kind of defied the city's orders at the time to come back to see what was happening because we just couldn't believe that our area was not going to return.
Tangee, we know nearly 20% of the population has left since Hurricane Katrina. I wonder if it's because so many of the images that we were watching back then, much of that is still hurting the eastern side. Tell us about the struggles so many of you have lived through and then turn around and hopefully, potentially, turning this loss around into a success.
Yes, yes. When we came back to the city, there was literally no infrastructure, no stores, hospital, schools, neighborhoods were decimated. But we were really determined to rebuild our homes. We live in a very beautiful part of New Orleans, east of New Orleans, where there's natural environment. There's miles and miles of beachfront and land, water, air, and rail. We just could not believe that this area could not be sustained. Our struggle has been, getting sufficient resources provided to this area, funding necessary to rebuild our businesses. Although our homes are rebuilt for many of us, it's 88,000 that returned from a population before Katrina was 125,000, but 88,000 are here presently and working every day, grassroots organizations like myself and others who depended upon a unity of the community, the kindness of strangers who came in from all over the country to help rebuild our city. Particularly in New Orleans East, we struggle with the fact that government services, has not come back to this area. We cannot understand that. Even now, there's, a stark difference between our area, which was gravely devastated, and the largest district in the city of New Orleans with a tax base that's substantial. We pay insurance rates through the roof, we pay taxes, and yet the city has not seen, and this is the metropolis of downtown and the areas that support tourism, which we love. We have no resentment of that at all. But there's a very vital part of this city that needs serious recovery and economic development interests.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.